Okay, so we discussed charges, and now we're going to go ahead and discuss the methods of charging something, giving something a positive or a negative charge. There are three methods for charging. The first one that we're going to talk about is friction. Okay, friction is a very common way of charging something. You may have gone across the floor before and drag your feet and then go ahead and touch your brother or your sister and give them a little shock. Okay, you charged yourself up via friction, and then you gave that charge over to them, okay, with a little shock. So that's one way. Let's go ahead and look at that in a little more detail. So here we have an example, okay. We've got a balloon here, and the balloon is neutral. It's got 4 positive charges and 4 negative charges. And then the sweater over here has an equal number of positive and negative charges. If I go over here and rub the balloon against the sweater, what happens is by friction, some of the electrons leave and go to the balloon. Okay? And now the balloon has a net negative charge, and the sweater has a net positive charge. Okay? And the one thing that we know is that opposites attract. So the balloon is going to now be attracted to the sweater. Okay? The other thing to take note of here is that it's the electrons that move. Okay? We can't make the protons move. The protons are located inside the nucleus. Okay? We cannot change that. However, the electrons are on the cloud, and they are a little more free to move. Okay, the second method for charging is contact or conduction. When the object touches another object with a charge, it gets the same type of charge. So you've probably seen a Van de Graaff machine before. If not, you're going to see one now. Okay, so here's the Van de Graaff machine, and the Van de Graaff machine gives itself a charge up here, and depending on the machine, it could be positive or negative, but it gives itself this charge up here by friction. But now the girl who's touching it, okay, she is being charged by conduction, okay, or contact, because she is touching. So let's go ahead and say it's a negative charge up here. So she's touching it, and these electrons are moving into her because they want to have the same amount of charge on both objects. So as this gains more electrons to even it out, they're going to leave and go into her as well. Okay? So that is charging through contact. The last one is induction. Now, to understand induction, you first need to understand polarization. So what is polarization? Well, the charges separate so that there's a net negative charge on one side and a net positive charge on the other side of the object. Okay, well, why would they do that? Why would the electrons move away? Because the protons, again, can't move. So why would the electrons move to one side of the object? Okay, so we're going to answer that question next. The next thing is, it lets us know that when it's polarized, the total charge is still 0. So it's not a method of charging, okay? The net charge for the whole object is still going to be 0 after this. It's just going to be polarized. And then the last one says objects may be attracted due to an object being charged and the other being polarized. So let's go ahead and go back to this. So here I have the balloon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to charge up the balloon. Notice we can't charge the balloon by rubbing the wall. We've got to rub this sweater over here. So the electrons a little free to move there. And now we did realize before this now has a net positive, this has a net negative charge. So they're going to be attracted. But watch what happens when I take this balloon over to the wall. Okay? Look, this has a net negative charge. These electrons are repelled by other electrons, other negative charges. So they're going to move away. What happens then is this wall becomes polarized. Okay? You'll see all the positives are along this side close to the balloon. Okay? So along the left side, it has a net positive charge. Along the right side, then, it's got a net negative charge. But overall, it still has the same number of positive charges and negative charges. So this object, this wall is neutral. Okay? but it's polarized because right here there's more positive charges in this area than there are negative charges. And we say that is polarized. Okay, so how does polarization lead to induction? Well, it's a method of charging without contact. An object is polarized and then grounded. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to go back over here. So pretend that this balloon, we're going to reset it. First, we are going to charge the balloon. Okay? Then we are going to polarize the wall. Now let's pretend that this wall instead is a piece of metal. Okay? And we're not going to actually touch, so we're just going to leave a little bit of space between the two. But the wall is still polarized. Now, what I'm going to do is attach another piece of metal to this wall on the right side. And these electrons want to get as far away as possible. So these electrons are going to start flowing down that metal to the ground, where I'm going to ground it. Then I'm going to cut it. Now the electrons, some of those electrons left are in the ground now. So now, some of the electrons left and are in the ground now. So in this, some of the electrons left and in the ground now. So now there would be fewer electrons. Okay? Which means it would have a net positive charge. So we've got our big negatively charged balloon, or whatever it is, okay? Probably not a balloon. We'll make it a Van de Graaff machine so it can have a lot of negative charge. Then we've got our little metal neutrally charged object, okay? So there's 4 positive charges, 4 negative charges, okay? Now I'm going to bring this over close, and these negative charges are going to move as far away as they can. And then the next thing I'm going to do is attach a wire to the ground, and then the electrons are going to move even further away. They're going to go down this wire until they get to the ground, so they've left. And then I cut the wire, and now this other object over here now has a net positive charge, and that is charging by induction because they didn't actually touch, just brought it near.